All right, concept 4, factoring polynomials. So we've learned a little bit about how to factor quadratics, and we learned that we need to multiply to c and add to b and stuff like that. So polynomials, since there's more terms and higher degrees, there's a little bit more that goes into it. So I'm going to show you how to factor something with 2 terms, 3 terms, and 4 terms. Because polynomials, if we can get it down to something that has 2, 3, or 4 terms, we can factor it pretty easily. All right? So first things first, whenever you factor, you always want to check to see if there's a GCF. GCF stands for a greatest common factor. So greatest common factor is, can you divide some number or variable out of everything first before you start factoring? If you can, that makes your life so much easier. Okay, so always look for a greatest common factor first. Okay, so let's get started with these things with 2 terms. So anything with 2 terms, it can, whenever we have something that is something squared minus something squared, we call that a difference of squares, which makes sense, because if this is a square and this is a square and there's a minus sign in between them, a minus is a difference, so it makes sense. We factor a difference of squares into something that looks like this. If it's a squared minus b squared, it becomes a plus b, a minus b. Okay, a plus b, a minus b. So let's do a couple examples. Let's say I have x squared minus 9. So I take the square root of the first term, and I take the square root of the last term, and then I make them plus and minus. Okay? So square root of x squared is just x. Square root of 9 is 3. Make one of them plus and one of them minus. Let's see, I'll write this different so it looks a little bit better. X plus 3, x minus 3. Okay. Let's do a little bit harder one. 16 x to the 4th minus 25. Again, we're going to take the square root of the first term and the square root of the last term, and then make them plus and minus. Okay? So square root of 16 is 4. Square root of x to the 4th, all I had to do is just cut 4 in half. So that's x squared. Okay? Square root of 25 is 5. And we're done. Let me rewrite this so you can actually read it. Okay, so factor this guy. I'm just having a heck of a time today. So this becomes 4x squared plus 5, 4x squared minus 5. Okay, that is difference of squares. Okay, now the one in the middle is called sum of cubes, and it's pretty straightforward. Anything to the 3rd power, we call it cubed. So really we have something cubed plus something cubed. Sum means plus. So we're going to figure out how to factor this. And how you factor a sum of cubes is you take the cubed root of the first term plus the cubed root of the second term. And then you take a squared minus a times b plus b squared. Okay. That's how you factor a sum of cubes. So let's do a couple examples. Let's do x cubed plus 27. Okay. Cubed root of x cubed is just x. When I say cubed root, I mean what times itself 3 times equals that number. So what times itself 3 times is 27? Well, it's 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 3 is 27, so 3. Okay, so that's the first part. And the second part is we take a squared. So look at this guy right here. This is going to help you figure out this part right here. I take x squared minus this times this, 3 times x, plus this number squared, which is 9. And that's it. Okay, so let's do one more example. 8 x to the 6th, I should have made these boxes bigger, plus 1. Okay, so cubed root of 8, what times itself 3 times is 8? Well, 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. So that's 2. Okay, cubed root of x to the 6th, I divide 6 by 3, so that's x squared. Cubed root of 1 is just 1. Okay, now I take this number and I square it. 2 squared is 4. X squared squared is 4x to the 4th minus 1 times 2x squared, which is 2x squared, plus 1 squared, which is 1, and we're done. Okay, so sum of cubes is a little bit complicated, and the same thing with difference of cubes. Difference of cubes is similar to sum of cubes, it just looks a little bit different. So what that looks like is, instead of a plus b, it's going to be a minus b. And instead of a squared minus ab plus b squared, it's a squared plus ab plus b squared. Okay, so let's do a couple examples of this one. 64 minus x cubed. So I take the cubed root of 64, what times itself 3 times gives me 64. 4 times 4 times 4 is 64, so that's 4. Cubed root of x cubed is x, so minus x. A squared, 4 squared is 16, plus x times 4 is 4x, plus b squared, x squared is x squared. And we're done. Okay, let's do one more example. 27x cubed minus 8. Well, we know from before that the cubed root of 27 is 3. Cubed root of x cubed is x. Cubed root of 8 is 2. Okay. Then we just fill it in here. A squared, 3x squared is 9x squared. Plus a times b plus 2 times 3x is 6x. Gosh. Okay. Plus b squared plus 2 squared, which is 4. And we're done. All right, for sake of time, I'm going to stop this video, and I'm going to, in the next video, talk about trinomials, which we've already talked about before. So if you feel like you need a review, you can watch these ones. Otherwise, you can just do them. And then I'll move on to the ones with 4 terms.